In a shocking turn of events, Warner Bros. And DC Studios have officially put on hold, it seems, the Sergeant Rock movie that was going to be going into production this year, starring Colin Farrell as the titular Sergeant Rock, and it was going to be directed by Challenger's Luca Guadagnino. So this is quite an interesting development. It's something that has, some different conflicting reports coming out about it, so let's discuss what the news was said. So if you're unaware, DC Studios has been slowly but surely announcing more and more projects over the past couple of years for their upcoming DC film and television slate. And while from the very beginning, back in January of 2023, we did have quite a large number of projects announced, we have been slowly getting a couple of more over time. Like, for example, we got the Clayface movie, which is being written by Mike Flanagan, which is currently set for release in 2026. We also got the announcement of a Sergeant Rock movie, which was sort of going along the same sort of timeline as the Clayface movie, going to be going into production in 2025, looking to release in 2026. Now, according to Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, they all seem to have the story. This movie has been put on an indefinite hold. Now, this movie was in pre-production. This movie was along the way. It was certainly going into production. It was taking those steps. Shooting was going to begin at some point this summer. Casting had already begun. We had Colin Farrell officially cast as Sergeant Rock. Obviously, originally, I think there was a lot of discussions of Daniel Craig playing this role, but he seemed to have passed on it. This then landed on Colin Farrell, which obviously this is now his second DC role after playing the Penguin in Matt Reeves' Batman universe, so that's quite fun. There was also rumours that Mike Feist was going to be cast in this movie. Of course, him and Luca Guadagnino have a pass now after Challengers. So things was happening, there was a lot of progress, and the script was fully done. This was going to be written by Justin Kuritzkis, who wrote Celine Song's Past Lives. He also wrote Luca Guadagnino's Challengers. He also wrote Queer for Luca Guadagnino as well. So he's a very talented writer who is definitely making great strides in Hollywood at the moment. So it was that team of, Challengers and Queer. They were re-teaming for this Sergeant Rock movie for DC. And out of all of these projects that DC has announced, whether we're talking about movies, television, whatever it may be, Sergeant Rock, being directed by Luca Guadagnino and written by Justin Kuritzkis, was one of the most interesting ones, in my opinion, because looking at it, I'm going, this is some serious talent they've got here. I think DC, there's a lot of projects coming out from them at the moment, and we don't know the full slate of the creative team behind some of them. We know that obviously James Gunn is doing Superman. We know that Craig Giuseppe's doing Supergirl. We know that people like Tom King, and we also know that like Damon Lindelof is behind the Lantern series. Like, there are certain projects that are like in production right now. We know the creative team behind them, but beyond that, we don't really know. But this Sergeant Rock movie, when I found out it was going to be directed by Luca Guadagnino, written by Justin Kuritzkis, I thought this is a really interesting angle to go in from, especially for a character that is a complete, D-lister at this point. I personally hadn't heard of Sergeant Rock when this movie was announced. I'm a big DC guy, love DC, but I'm certainly not, the most knowledgeable person in the world when it comes to DC. I hadn't heard of this character. So getting the fact that this is a very unknown character and you're handing it off to an incredibly talented director and writer team, it's a bold move from DC. And I was excited to see it because I love Challengers. I really enjoyed Queer. I thought if we're going to get a DC movie from that team, that could be a recipe for an amazing fucking movie. I was excited. I was looking forward to it. Now, as we go into the news, it seems that the movie, it was initially reported like straight away, like initial reaction was the movie's been cancelled, the movie's been shelved, it's not going forward. But then if you as time settled a little bit, about half an hour later, we started to get some other reports saying that the movie has been put on an indefinite hold and is going to get reassessed at the end of the year and then potentially look for a summer shoot in 2026. Now, out of the two reports there, is the movie cancelled or is it on hold? I definitely think it's on hold. I don't think this movie's gone entirely. I think, for one, it would be such a waste, especially when the script was done, you have a incredible director wanting to do it, ready to go. Like, he's literally taken pictures of himself, like, in DC Studios merch and gear. The guy's committed. And you also had casting well underway. You had Colin Farrell signed on to star. You had Mike Feist was apparently cast in this movie as well. They were also casting for other character supporting roles in the movie. This was a production very much about to begin. And I think, according to the reports here, they're saying that the reason why the movie was supposedly put on hold or delayed or cancelled or whatever the truth is, the reason is because the film is going to require a lot of outdoor shooting, and they were struggling to get the schedules right for that. And it seems like they're going to miss that summer shooting window. The film was originally set to shoot at some point in the summer of 2025. Seems like that's not happening now. Obviously, it is May. So it seems like they're going to push the shooting back to next year, do a summer shoot in 2026, and then the movie will probably release in 2027. That's sort of the vibe I'm getting here. So when you look at that report, I personally am leaning more towards the fact that this movie is definitely on the back burner for now. I think they're going to push it back a year and just, once they can get those scheduling conflicts sorted out and they can get the shooting times nailed down, they will then go into full-fledged production on this movie. Because, as I said, it would be such a waste if you got such a talented team, creating such a unique-sounding movie for the comic book genre and for this DC universe, and then you just drop it. It would be a complete waste. Again, if the movie wasn't so far along in production, if the script wasn't done and they hadn't done any kind of pre-production or no casting or anything like that, they didn't have a director on board, I would have been like, okay, fine, I guess the movie's not working for them, bin it off. But again, this movie was literally about to go into production. It was right there, and it just seems to be timing, unfortunately, hasn't allowed for, the production to go as they wanted it to. So if they can just push it back a little bit, I think that's more than acceptable. And I think we will eventually see the Sergeant Rock movie come from DC. I just think it might be a year later than what was originally planned, which is a shame. Obviously, this film was pledged to be kind of one of the first DC movies. Obviously, we've got Superman this year, we've got Supergirl next year. I think Clayface is coming out next year as well, and I think Sergeant Rock was going to come out next year. So it kind of was going to be one of the first DC movies. It might have a couple of more come out in front of that now, but we'll have to wait and see. But I guess what I want to leave this video with is a question for you guys, because I know there's been a lot of discussion online about, well, hey, we didn't want this movie anyway, who knows who Sergeant Rock is, who cares, who gives a shit. And I think all of that is, if you're not interested in the movie, that's perfectly valid. I think, you're allowed to be interested in what you like in regards to movies and TV. If it's not a project you're interested in, that's fair enough. But what I want to know from you guys is, do you think that this movie is cancelled? Do you think it's done? We're not going to see it? Or are you more in agreement with me? Do you think this movie has just been put on the back burner because they have got a movie ready to go? It's complete. It's done. They just need to make it now. Do you think it's just going to get pushed back? Whatever you think, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see more content just like this, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. And I hope to see you guys again next time.